Hello, my name is Dorothy Rosen. I'm a goldsmith in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to talk about my jeweler's torch, because I was thinking about what are the types of things and the kinds of knowledge that I take for granted that you might not have. So I wanted to share a little bit about that, although I see Halifax Jewelleries here and they certainly do know what a jeweler's torch is. So today I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm here at my soldering station, which is in front of me. I'm going to switch the camera in a minute. And behind me this is my pickle. I've talked about that in another, after soldering something it would go in there. And I am wearing a leather apron, because that's super important when you solder, because anything could fall off the soldering table super duper hot. We're talking 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit or something, potentially. And you don't want that to fall something into your lap, and God forbid you're wearing a synthetic fiber. It would melt into your skin with that, with the heat, and that would not be pleasant at all. Even, of course, natural fiber, you don't want that to happen. So and this has happened to me, I have 3 different aprons. I have another apron that has a distinct burn mark in it from when something fell into my lap, and luckily I was wearing leather apron. I also have a fire extinguisher here. Of course, we are working with fire. And so there are a few safety things like that. Normally I would turn on my exhaust, but it's very loud, so I'm not going to do it today. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. So there are different types of torches, jeweler's torches. The very simplest really is like a butane torch. If somebody just does a little bit of jewelry, they don't need really, really high heat and they don't use a lot of it. That's a good way to start. That's also what people, well, not always, but lamp work can be done with that, so glass. And then the 2 basic other ones are either acetylene or propane. So that's the fuel we're talking about. There is also the very ancient technique, and I was looking earlier for photos about this from when I was traveling through India. I spent a month on pilgrimage through India many years ago, 2003, I think. And there I saw the goldsmiths sitting on the floor working with alcohol lamps and a blowpipe. Doing circular breathing, and basically the way you get a flame hot is if you have a fuel source, in their case alcohol, just a little alcohol flame. Oh, I wish I had brought that out. I use that for wax when I work with wax. Alcohol and air coming from their mouth. So that's actually really, really cool, and it's ancient, and it's how people have made jewelry for a really, really long time. Much more recent are these kinds of fuels. Like you can actually use natural gas if you have it. You can use, you need some kind of fuel. And then you can use either just the fuel, or you can use fuel and oxygen at the same time, which is gonna be hotter, more hot. The difference between using acetylene and propane is that acetylene does not burn as clean. It actually contains some carbon, which is why you would want to have ventilation when you use acetylene. And on the flip side, the propane, you have difficulty storing it, because even though the fire marshal might say you can have a small canister in your studio, in the end it's the decision of your insurance underwriter whether or not you can do that, and they generally are not fond of having propane cylinders of any size indoors. This is part of the reason why I may yet get an outdoor propane cylinder and pipe it in, just like you do for your gas stove. I do for my gas stove, but that's in a different building. But so far I have been using acetylene. And one of the main reasons, other than the insurance thing, is that's what we learned jewelry making with at NASCAD University, from where I have my my degree in jewelry design. So I use an acetylene torch, and it's a very old one. I bought a lot of my equipment used when I started out, one bit at a time, coming out of art school. This is old school. This is a presto light, and this is the handle. And then here you have the torch tip. And this is kind of the first thing we can get into is, well, I should also say this is the valve that opens or closes the gas. Oh, did I open the gas? The gas always gets turned off at night at the cylinder, and then the line gets bled, meaning you empty the gas. But this is what, you can probably hear that. Opens and closes that gas. When that's closed, it's closed here. So if I want to, this is quite a large torch tip. If I want to use a smaller torch tip, this is the tiniest one I have for this same torch. And this is all about how big is the opening. So obviously a lot more fuel comes out of this one than this guy. This is for soldering tiny things. This is for annealing and doing more of a bushy flame. That's another advantage really of the acetylene torch, is that it has a great variety of kind of flame sizes. And I have a bunch of different ones here, So there's 4 different sizes that I have of this. And if I want to change it, and this used to freak me right out, I can simply unscrew it right here, because nothing's coming out because this is closed. And screw another one in. I want to show you with this one, so I'm going to keep this on. So that's that one. And that's a single fuel torch. There's only acetylene attached to this, and the acetylene tank goes through this pipe. It's over there. There's all kinds of safety precautions, but that's my acetylene torch. I do also have a dual fuel torch, and this is the Smith mini torch. And dual fuel, you can see they're color-coded, the lines as well as the knobs. This is where you turn on and off the pressure. This is not, these tanks are not turned on. And the mixing of the fuel with oxygen, so there's an oxygen tank as well, 2 separate tanks for this one, that gives you a hotter flame. Now you might wonder about the difference between these torch tips. Very interestingly, they're quite equally powerful. This puppy is very, very powerful. You can totally melt things with this, and cast and all kinds of stuff. So, and that comes with a bunch of teeny tiny different size torch tips. That's called the torch tip. And similarly, you change it here. This has a little way to attach, so I can park it. And let's see, maybe I'll turn you around now so I can show you some things. Yeah, I'm going to. Am I ready? Yeah. Let's do that. Let's turn it around. Oh, that's not the button I wanted. Okay, so there we go. Oh, you know what? My screw is stripped here from my handle. Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm gonna have to hold this now. So here's my. This is usually how a soldering table is set up. There is a charcoal block, or this is kind of a heat absorption thing. These are some earrings I'm going to bright dip. That's a different thing, but it also involves a torch. This is very unfortunate that I can't fasten this now. Maybe I'll try to get closer in. This is not a good example. Oh, here. This is called a third hand because I only have 2, and sometimes you have to hold something. So there's, this is tension, and I can hold a piece and then use still my 2 hands. Oh, by the way, I am right-handed, and even though I'm right-handed, my torch goes in the left-hand side. In the left hand. Why is that? Because because it's the right hand that will use something like tweezers to manipulate the solder or your piece. The right hand actually needs to have the more precise control. So somebody who's left-handed would hold the torch in their right hand. The dominant hand is not the torch hand. This is a tungsten stick. I often use this to pick up a piece of solder. I also, can we see these? There's a few other things. These are my different solders, and I'll talk about these another day. There's hard, medium, easy in the golds, in the silver, and there's some other tools we use, such as these. You'd never believe it, but dressmakers T-pins. I think they're dressmakers pins. We use these to hold pieces in place. Sometimes I use a simple, like a block like this. It's from like fireplaces. It has to be soft, cinder block. And, you know, we can poke these guys in there and hold pieces in place, because obviously you can't stick your hand in there. I also have these fancy ones, and they've broken. These sometimes are helpful. So there are different tools we use. Sometimes I use a charcoal block, not always. What else can I show you? Oh yeah, that's a nice thing. When I have a piece that needs to be heated from all sides, so this is one of those, basically like a cinder block, and it's on a turntable. So I can turn the piece around so I can get the heat added from all sides. You can imagine if my torch is on my left hand, and I may want to heat it from all sides, because it's really important to heat things from all sides. And then what else do I want to show you? This is a valve for a larger two fuel situation, which I've kind of parked for now. Honestly, the acetylene and the acetylene and oxygen thing is not ideal. I have not figured. There's too much soot. I don't like it. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to get propane in here. I'll have to select that out with my insurance company. Now I wanted to show you how I wanted to start that flame and kind of show you, but it may become difficult. I'll see. So there's fuel that comes out of here if I turn this puppy on, and the fuel needs to be ignited somehow. If I just turn this on, nothing happens. I have to actually double check to see that I opened my tank. 1 second. I hope you're not gonna keel over. Oh no, my tank is closed. Safety first. Just opened it. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to light that torch. So this is called a striker. You can see it just makes sparks. That spark combined with this torch will make a flame, and it's a little bright in here almost. So the way it works, I turn on it just a little bit, I give it a spark, and boom, there we are. And then the next step is I adjust my flame, so it doesn't really want to be quite that noisy. So this can make a very bushy flame, which is good for certain instances. I'm not liking the yellow that I'm seeing in the flame. Us jewelers look at color of the flame all the time. This may be that the tank is close to empty. I'll have to check that tomorrow. And then turning it off always makes this popping sound. Like that. When you first do it, people kind of freak out about that. Also, this is not hot, unless I use this for a long time. So again, if I want to have a much smaller torch, I choose one of my smaller torch tips, like this one. This is the next one down. I attach it here, make sure it's tight, turn it on, just a little bit, light it. And then again, I would adjust the flame so it doesn't, you know, this is way too much, obviously. You don't want it to roar like that. This is maybe a little too little. And as a jeweler, I would be using the bay tip of that brightest part of the flame. That's what I want on my piece. That's the hottest. Again, turning it off makes this... Oh, actually, you know, I'll show you this little thing. So when it's on, and then you turn it off, watch down here. Sometimes fun stuff happens down there. Yeah, did you see that? Just a tiny little flash. It is fuel. It is a, you know, gotta be careful. It's a little intimidating, but the flame quickly becomes your friend as a jeweler, and you learn to work with it just like you would with a wild horse, I would say. That's probably a good comparison. And, you know, obviously I love it. The fire is part of what really turns my crank. We don't get to play with fire all that often. In fact, for example, and most of the time it's about soldering, and I'll talk about that another time. You spend a lot more times getting everything ready than you do with the fire. The fire is actually the tiniest amount of time, but it's also where you can ruin everything, because these things get very hot. It's very easy to melt something into a puddle, to melt a hole into something. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it with that. Let me know if you have any questions, and if there's something else that you'd like me to talk about sometime, I'd be happy to. Thanks so much, and you have a great day. Bye.